Islamic State Organization has been making towards France following the first airstrikes in Iraq, Flo.
Absolutely, that group has vowed to retaliate, and on Sunday night the group called for the murder of the, quote, mean and dirty French. So let's take a look at the front page of Libération. They talk about the fact that France is in the Islamic State Organization's crosshairs. Now, the question now is whether the group actually has the means to carry out this threat. Libération interviews a specialist in Islamic propaganda, Abdelhassim El Difraoui. He says that for now, the group does not have the means to carry out a widespread terrorist attack like the ones in New York, London, or Madrid. The group hasn't had enough time to internationalize itself. According to this specialist, for example, it hasn't had enough time to set up cells abroad. And in fact, he says that the group's real aim is to create panic and scare as many people as possible. And especially the group wants to create further divisions in French society between Muslims and non-Muslims. He says the group is very much aware of the wave of Islamophobia that we've been seeing in France, and so it's really playing on that. Libération and its editorial applauds the fact that the government, however, is taking these threats very, very seriously. That's exactly what the government should be doing.
And the right-leaning paper, Le Figaro, agreeing that the threat is very, very real.
Absolutely. It's also on the front page of Le Figaro today. It says that France is getting mobilized in the face of the Islamic State Organization's threat. Yesterday, we saw the Interior Minister, Bernard Cazeneuve, say that France isn't afraid, authorities are well prepared, and Le Figaro agrees that the threat isn't that of a major attack. It says the real threat is that of a low-cost attack, that's what it calls it, that would be carried out by a lone wolf, very much like those deadly shootings that we saw at the Jewish Museum in Brussels in May. And according to Le Figaro, the Islamic State group has a growing pool of candidates in France for that kind of job.
And the Minister for Foreign Affairs warning French citizens to be particularly careful in various different countries as well.
Absolutely, and this comes as a French citizen was taken hostage in eastern Algeria. This is the front page of Aujourd'hui en France today. You can see a French hostage taken by an Islamist group that's actually linked to the Islamic State group. Now, the group has threatened to execute him if France doesn't stop its airstrikes in Iraq. So who is this hostage? Well, Aujourd'hui en France takes a closer look, has a profile of the man, 55 years old, mountain guide from Nice, fan of hiking. He was kidnapped near Beni Ouardan, so that's about 120 kilometers east of Algiers, while he was hiking with Algerian friends of his. And so he appeared in this video reading a text that was addressing the president, François Hollande. And according to Aujourd'hui en France, the group that kidnapped him is a group called the Soldiers of the Caliphate. It's a group that up until very recently was actually affiliated with the Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb group, but in July they pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group.
Going to move on to French politics now. Still a lot of focus on Nicolas Sarkozy and his official return to the political stage.
Ooh, yeah, we've been hearing a lot about that. Paper's
Sure
very
have.
excited that he finally decided to announce his comeback. So he gave this interview on Sunday night on primetime television. How did he do? Well, according to Aujourd'hui en France, a net majority of viewers, 55%, were not convinced by his interview. Particularly, actually, and this is interesting, a lot of people on the right, they say he didn't really, clarify his political line. He didn't give any clear positions on society issues or either on big economic questions like the 35-hour work week. And so you can see this article in Aujourd'hui en France today saying that Sarkozy, he's still searching for himself. It's still pretty blurry what his program is going to be. And on top of that, well, he's still in a lot of legal trouble. And Libération, the left-leaning paper, comes back on this. They got their hands on a summary report on a probe into allegations of influence peddling that Sarkozy was actually arrested for. And according to Libération, this report, the summary report, is very damning for the president. And Libé says that the report of these recorded conversations that Sarkozy had with his lawyer, Libé says they clearly show that he was involved in influence peddling.
Okay, no doubt that will run, of course. And finally, the French papers are also turning their attention to New York, to this World Climate Summit.
That's right. La Croix, the Christian paper, asks the million-dollar question that everybody wants to know. Who is to blame for climate change? La Croix wonders, is it industrialized countries who have a historic responsibility for climate change? Or is it emerging nations like China that's become the biggest producer of CO2 on the planet? Now, the summit has gotten off to a rocky start. Lacroix reminds us that some of the world's biggest polluters, well, they've just refused to participate or even show up. So Lacroix, unfortunately, says this is not a very promising start to the summit.
OK, bit of depressing news there at the end of Flo's paper review. Thanks a lot. Up for you next in the news, of course, a lot more on those first airstrikes against Islamic State targets inside Syria. And in Focus in the next half hour, we're going to be heading to two areas of Paris, packed with colour, people, in fact, packed with life, how Africa has come to the French capital.